Hi, Sarah Childress back with you. I would love to suggest that you watch Charlotte Wells's new debut feature film, Aftersun, which stars Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio. I'd also like to suggest that maybe you hold off on watching this video until after you've seen Aftersun, because I'm finding it very difficult to really explore this exquisitely structured film without looking at how some of the parts provide insight into the whole, into the structure of the whole, and also the meaning of the whole. So consider yourself warned, but if you want, come along and we'll dive into it. So I thought a good place to start would be with my first viewing of the film, and I've been fortunate enough to see the film twice now in theaters. And in my first viewing, I could not help but feel that something terrible was going to happen to Callum and Sophie. And as I was watching the film that first time, it dawned on me why I was having this feeling of unease. And it's because I believe Charlotte Wells uses certain horror film conventions to produce that feeling. I'll give you a couple of examples. One would be we have a shot of Sophie sort of doing this confessional into the video camera, mentioning that her father is currently scuba diving without really the training to do so. Then the film cuts to a shot of the unbroken surface of the sea, and if we are to follow that association, it makes it seem that Callum is drowned, that he hasn't yet broken the surface, like come up to the surface. Another example would be when we see Callum crossing a street, and then suddenly a bus careens into frame from out of frame, honking its horn, obscuring our view of Callum. And thirdly, and perhaps most tangibly, is when we see Callum striding across the beach at night, walking into the waves. Now, as he's striding across the beach and about to get into the waves, the music on the soundtrack swells. And this is reasonably minimalist music soundtrack. And so when we hear the music, we know something is going to happen. The music isn't really underscoring an emotion because this is a reasonably neutral scene, so we know, okay, it's signaling drama, something is about to happen. But then the music is overtaken by the rising volume on the soundtrack of the waves, and that rising volume of the wave sound makes it seem like the waves have consumed and erased Callum. Also, this is a pretty long take for the shot, and so we have plenty of time to listen to the roaring of the waves and to see the empty beach that no longer has Callum present upon it. Now, we know at the end of the film, or by the end of the film, that something bad has happened to Callum. Now, we're not completely sure what has happened, but we're pretty sure he's dead. We're not sure how he died, whether something befell him or whether it was by his own hand. And actually, since I'm thinking about uncertainty or talking about uncertainty at this moment, I did want to underscore the fact that I think uncertainty is actually crucial to the film's working and to its power, because uncertainty is an important aspect of Sophie's being, of who she is. Because this really is Sophie's film, and I'm pretty sure that she is uncertain. Obviously, she knows what happened to her dad, but it's pretty clear, or at least I should say palpable, that she doesn't know why it happened. And so this film is really her grappling with that lack of knowledge. And in a sense, it is a direct expression, or as direct of an expression as we can have, of Sophie's remembering process. Not only remembering, but remembering, taking not only her memories, but also this videotape footage, trying to put them all together in order to fill in these blanks, in order to take not knowing into some greater or deeper, more profound form of knowledge. And we know that this is happening as Sophie, now an adult with a child, is celebrating her own birthday, and that seems to be what's motivating her to return to these videotapes, which were documents of a trip that she took with her father to a resort in Turkey on the occasion of his 31st birthday. And so I think thinking about the videotapes, thinking about going back to a point of origin or going back to a starting point, it will be helpful for us to go back to the beginning of the film, because I like to think that a film in its opening moments, opening shots, really is giving us hints at how to watch it, and is setting up little insights, little motifs for the rest of the film. And this film certainly does that. So before we even see anything, we hear the sound of videotapes, and obviously videotapes are quite important to the overall film and to Sophie's process. Then we have a scene from one of the videotapes where Sophie, aged 11, is interviewing, for lack of a better word, her father. And this is the first of 2 times we see this interaction. And she's asking her father if he knew when he was 11 what he was going to be doing when he was 31. And his response is essentially, Sophie, turn off the camera. He's refusing to answer that question. From this moment, we go to, and actually I should say this moment, this taped moment, kind of ends in a pixelated kind of fragmentation that happens, when you rewind or fast forward a videotape, it kind of starts to break up. And I think that's an important aspect of what we're seeing visually. And then we move from that kind of fragmentation into the establishment of one of the film's central motifs, which is adult Sophie in a sort of strobe lit club. Okay, so let's go back and think about this. So we are seeing this scene of the interview, presumably along with adult Sophie. We're seeing it kind of with her or as her. And what's so important is that in this moment, her father is refusing to answer a question. And then we see the tape either fast forwarding or being rewound, perhaps rewound, and it breaks up. And so this is a way for us, or this is a way for the film to signal to us that Sophie is never going to be able to get the full knowledge that she's looking for, that vital information will always be withheld from her. Not only by her father, but also from the medium that she's revisiting in order to try to fill in these gaps. The other thing that the movement from that kind of breaking up, fragmented, moment of not knowing or being held at a distance, foreclosed from knowing, then goes into the strobe lit club. Again, the strobe lighting obscures and lights, obscures and illuminates. And so again, we have this visual idea, this visual motif that, again, Sophie is never going to be able to fully have the light of illumination and of the knowledge that she seeks. But as we come to see, as the film continues and this kind of dance club motif becomes a climactic or a part of the film's climax, we see that the kind of the rhythmic oscillations of the light and the dark are also in a sense giving visual expression to the oscillations that Sophie is experiencing herself as she remembers love and happiness, but also sort of grief and frustration, and as we see her enact that, like a deep and dark sense of feeling in relation to her dad. And that visual expression of Sophie's desire to know, but her inability to know, as well as the deep, profound, like wellspring of feelings that she's experiencing in relation to this trip and in relation to her father, also clued me in to think about the fact that everything that we see in the film is narrationally from Sophie's point of view. Now we get, yes, direct POV shots, but we also get scenes or moments that are really things that Sophie would be most interested in. Not only these kind of discrete, sort of beautiful moments that she and her dad are sharing, but also her interest in the budding sexuality of the teens around her, because Sophie at 11, she's not really a child, she's not really an adult. And so we find her interested in really the relationships around her. And we also see her trying to parse through her father's relationships. And you might say, but wait a second, we also have views of Callum that are separate from Sophie. But if you think about it, those views, there's always something a little obscured about them, for lack of a better word. The lighting is either like a little bit dark or a little bit shaded, or Callum is fragmented, or he's partially, like the frame will cut parts of him out, or the framing will leave him. And so it was noticing how Callum was presented, both cinematographically and also in mise-en-scène, inspired me to think that maybe these representations of Callum are really coming from Sophie's perspective. And she is in these moments, like imaginatively trying to create these discrete moments of of darkness and questioning and pain that her father might have experienced. And doing this as a way to plant and then interpret clues as to why her father did what he did. And so that way it's almost like these moments of seeing Callum by himself or as himself is a way of providing kind of a retrospective or retroactive narrative that explains what ultimately happened. And that also might be kind of a form of guilt as Sophie thinks about all of these signs that might have been there, but that she wasn't able to read or to see at the time, or read or to see because she was a child, or read or see because her father was trying to protect her from them. This is such an exquisite and such an elegant film from an incredible new talent. So please, 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 if you do have a chance to see it, please do see it.